Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Karis May, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Colonel Andrea McMahon. We warmly welcome the family of Warrant Officer Class 2, Victor Keith Tutt, whose story will be read shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from around Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors. To commence this evening's ceremony, I invite you all stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations for over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we pay tribute to Warrant Officer Class 2, Victor Tutt. Victor Keith Tutt was born on the 22nd of November 1908 in Stanthorpe in southeast Queensland, one of 5 children born to Victor and Alice Tutt. The family moved to Glen Innes in the New England region of northern New South Wales, where the young Victor Keith Tutt served as an apprenticeship as a motor mechanic with Dufty and Son. He was later employed with Mr. A.C. Alcock's garage before taking a position in a Bundarra garage. Whilst in Bundarra, Tutt was married to Una Joyce Doak. Together they had 2 daughters, Kay and Lola. Residing in Glen Innes, Tutt joined the staff of Black and White Transport, where he was a bus driver on the Glen Innes Inverell line. Tutt was well known in this community. He was involved in the Glen Innes Boy Scouts along with his father, who was the Scoutmaster. He had a reputation as a prominent swimmer in the district, and he was also a member of the Masonic Lodge and the Ancient Order of Foresters. The local newspaper, the Glen Innes Examiner, said that in all his associations, Tutt was esteemed and admired for his many manly qualities and his zealous regard for the worthwhile things in life. He was widely known as a capable and reliable bus driver, but as much for his courtesy and consideration, attributes that inspired complete confidence and a warm regard. He was popular with all who travelled with him and won universal goodwill and esteem. Tutt worked for Black and White until his enlistment in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force on the 18th of November 1941 at the age of 33. Being a bus driver and mechanic in the transport industry was on the list of reserved occupations, which was devised to prevent the voluntary enlistment of skilled workers from essential services. But despite performing an important duty that was recognised as an essential service, Tutt was sent white feathers in the mail by an anonymous correspondent, an accusation of cowardice. After this, he could no longer hold back his sense of duty and volunteered. Following his enlistment, Tutt was posted to the 216 Light Aid Detachment. In March 1943, he embarked for overseas service, travelling to Milne Bay at the eastern tip of the territory of Papua. After a year, he returned to Australia before being sent again to Papua in September 1944, this time to Port Moresby. In November 1944, he flew to Townsville, where he undertook a further course at the Mechanical School in Redbank, Queensland. Tutt topped his class, passing with a distinction. Returning to Port Moresby in February, Tutt was then posted to the 2nd 39th Light Aid Detachment. On the 21st of July 1945, Tutt was killed when he drowned in an accident. He was 36 years old. His body is buried in the Bamana War Cemetery in Port Moresby. His name is listed here on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Warrant Officer Class 2, Victor Keith Tutt, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Could you all please stand for the ode and last post?
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We would like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.